Good morning, students. Welcome to Chanakya Academy online classes, Standard 10th, subject Science. Yes, students. So, in yesterday lectures, we have just started with human brain. So, let's see what exactly human brain consists of. So, we have started, and I told you yesterday that human brain consists of three main parts. Okay, forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay, so let's see, and I'll explain you with the help of diagram that how exactly human brains look like. So first of all, let's start with a very important thing, that is skull. Now you know that we have skull which is present at our head region, and this skull protects our brain. Okay, the skull which you see, which is yellow in color, this is given a name called as cranium. Okay, so skull is a common name. Okay, what it is, it is a common name, but scientifically if we want, we call it as cranium. Okay, so cranium is the hard part of a skeletal system which protects our brain. After that, that is below the cranium, you have your forebrain. Okay, what you have? You have your forebrain, and the area which you see over here is your forebrain. Okay, so that is your forebrain. Now this forebrain basically consists of cerebrum. Okay, what it is consist of? It consists of cerebrum, and the next portion is hypothalamus, which you see over here. Okay, so it has been said that cerebrum is that area where all the calculation and all the nerves from the sensory regions is coming into this area. Okay, second thing is that this cerebrum, okay, cerebrum which you see, this cerebrum is having many folds. Okay, you can see we have many folds. So what it is folded into many areas. So this cerebrum, as the area gets folded, it increases the surface area, and this is the area where all our memories are stored. Okay, so as the surface area is increased, so more and more of nerve cells can come in contact with this cerebrum. Okay, so with this folding, what is happening? The surface area gets increased. Okay, come to the next, that is your midbrain. So we have three: forebrain, we have midbrain, and we have hindbrain. So forebrain occupies the maximum area, which consists of cerebrum. Below the cerebrum, what you have is your midbrain. Okay, this midbrain is then followed by hindbrain. Hindbrain consists of three main regions. Okay, that is the pons which you see, then medulla oblongata and cerebellum. Okay, hindbrain consists of three parts: pons, medulla and cerebellum. So the function of your hindbrain is to balance your body, and it is done with the help of cerebellum, which you see. Okay, as cerebellum is a leaf like structure which you can see over here. Okay, it looks like a leaf structure which is present at the base of our head, and this helps in keeping our body straight and balancing our body. Okay, the medulla oblongata which you see, it goes down into our neck and it is moving downward, where it will now be called as spinal cord. Okay, so we can say here that we have a skull which is very hard, and below them we have cerebrum, okay, which is highly folded structure. So there are some regions between these two, that is the toughest and hard. So what we will have a fluid which will protect our brain, and that fluid is called as cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, so what is that fluid? The fluid which protects our brain for getting damage from cranium. Okay, so here you can see this is your cranium and this is your forebrain part. So between them we will have a fluid. Along with that, we have some layers of tissues also. Okay, we have some layers of tissues also that will join the cranium with your cerebrum. Okay, so between them we have a fluid as well as some tissues are present. Okay, I'll show you one more diagram. Let's see that. Yes, see the parts. Okay, they have shown that the brain is divided into forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Okay, the orange part which you see, which is occupying the maximum area, will be your forebrain. Just below the forebrain or between your forebrain you will have a midbrain which is green in color, and the posterior part of the brain will be your hindbrain. Okay, so like this they have divided your brain into three main parts. Now see this diagram. This is not in your book, but I just want to give you some more information regarding your forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Okay, I have just told you that all the information, all the nerves are basically coming to the region called as cerebrum, which is present in your forebrain. Okay, now this forebrain which you see is getting information, okay, from your nose, that is the smell area will be present on, okay, taste will be present, that whatever you are tasting with the help of your tongue, all the information will come to this region. Okay, then we have speech, we have the area for hearing, okay, for problem solving, okay, whatever sums which you are doing, we have a specific area. Okay, so this is the area where your problem solving solutions are being formed. Okay, then you have motor control, touch and pressure, okay, body awareness, language, then reading, vision. Okay, so all these are your areas in your brain where your nerves are coming to this area. That means if you are talking about smell, that is all the nerves from the nose, okay, will come and will give the information to brain in this particular area, okay, and the brain will send back the answer. Okay, so each and everything will have its specific areas, specific centers where it will be bringing the information. Understood? Now a little more information I want to give you is a forebrain. Okay, this forebrain is again divided into different lobes. Okay, we have four type of lobes present: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobes. What are these lobes? These are present in your forebrain. Okay, see, brain is divided into three regions: forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. Yes, then forebrain, which you see, is again divided into four lobes. Okay, now see, very beautifully they have shown with the help of a color. The red color portion is your frontal lobe, and your yellowish color is your occipital lobe. Green is your temporal, and a light green is your occipital lobe. Okay, so we have all the lobes which are present. Okay, so frontal lobe, which is present here, then we have parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobes. So all this is the region of your forebrain. Okay, and just below your temporal lobe, okay, you will have midbrain. Don't get confused over here. Okay, the three which I have marked you, just below this you will have a midbrain. So what I wanted to tell you is that central nervous system, just listen very carefully. Central nervous system is divided into two parts: brain and spinal cord. Brain is further divided into three regions: forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Okay, forebrain is further divided into four lobes: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and your occipital lobe. Okay, and these lobes are having a specific areas. Okay, and they are receiving the message from these areas only. Now the last which they are showing over here is your cerebellum, which is the part of your hindbrain. Okay, it is helping in coordination, keeping the balance. Understood? Yes, so whatever we have read yesterday, I'll just go through it very quickly. Forebrain is the main thinking part of the brain. It has regions which receives sensory impulse from various receptors. Separate areas of the forebrain are specialized for hearing, smell, sight, and so on. Okay, this I have shown with the help of a diagram. Okay, there are separate areas of association where this sensory information is interpreted by putting it together with information from other receptors as well as with information that is already stored in brain. Okay, this I have explained. Based on all this, a decision is made about how to respond, and the information is passed on to the motor areas which controls the movement of voluntary muscles. For example, leg muscles. This I have explained. So I think so the diagram is now clear to you. So practice this diagram 5 to 6 times and follow this diagram. This is very important diagram. Yes, let's move further. Let us look at the other use of word reflex that we have talked about in the introduction. Our mouth waters when we see food we eat without our meaning to. Our heart beat without our thinking about it. Okay, so all these I have explained you yesterday. Okay, so now no need to explain it again. Let's move to the next topic. So this is how are these tissues protected. A delicate organ like brain, which is so important for a variety of activities, need to be carefully protected. For this, the body is designed so that the brain sits inside a bony box. Inside the box, the brain is maintained in a fluid-filled balloon which provides further shock absorption. If you run your hand down in the middle of your back, you will feel hard, bumpy structure. This is vertebral column or bone which protects the spinal cord. Okay. Yes, now they are talking about two very important things. See, I have explained this thing, but again I'll recall this thing. They are talking about bony box. Okay, what they are talking is the body is designed so that the brain sits inside the bony box. What is this bony box called as? It is cranium. Okay, so we have a cranium which acts like a box. And why it is bony? Because it is made up of bones. A hard bones structure is present which protects our brain. Okay, so your cranium is called as your bony box. Understood? And second, what they are talking about is the brain is contained in a fluid filled balloon. Okay, this I have again explained you that we have a fluid which is known as cerebrospinal fluid, and this fluid protects our brain. Yes, so these two things just write in your textbook whenever you get the textbook or when you are making notes. Okay, write these two things also, that our brain is protected by cranium, okay, which is a portion of skull, and between the skull and brain we have a fluid called as cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, why it is called as cerebrospinal? Because cerebrum, okay, cerebrum and spinal cord, both of them will be protected with this fluid. Okay, so between the two structures we will have the fluid which is CSF. Okay, so with the paragraph which is given here, okay, so what we have the body box and we have fluid filled balloon which is CSF. Understood? This is the vertebral column or backbone which protects the spinal cord. Okay, so we know this thing also, that skull, okay, or cranium, it protects our brain, and we have vertebral column. Okay, where we have vertebral column? At the back side we have vertebral column. Okay, so vertebral column or backbone, which we call, what it is doing? It is protecting our spinal cord. Spinal cord is what? It is a nerve. So this nerves should be protected. Okay, and how it is being protected? It is protected by your spinal cord. So between cord will be present, and from between the spinal cord, from between the vertebral column, the spinal cord will come out. Okay, so Your central nervous system is over here. Okay, central nervous system have brain and spinal cord. Okay, brain is protected by cranium and spinal cord is protected by your vertebral column. Okay, so backbone is the common term which we are using. Okay, it is common term, and vertebral column is its scientific name, we can call it. Okay, bony box is the general term which we are calling, and cranium is the scientific term which we are using. Okay, so vertebral column protects spinal cord and your cranium protects your brain. Understood? So with this I have finished with the structure of brain. Okay, so just learn this diagram, and if you have any doubt, please ask. Yes, let's start with next thing is, how does the nerve tissue cause action? Okay, so far we have been talking about nervous tissue and how it collects information, send it around the body, process information and makes decision based on information, and conveys decision to make muscles for action. Okay, so this I have explained you what it is doing. The nervous tissue, it collects the information, send it, process it, makes the decision and then give the answer. Okay, so all this thing is the process which is taking place one after the other. Okay, in other words, when the action or movement is to be performed, muscle tissue will do the final job. How do animals' muscles move? When a nerve impulse reaches the muscle fiber must move. How does a muscle cell move? Okay, see, what we are telling is that when we are touching the hot object, message is taken by your nerves into your spinal cord. Spinal cord will read the message, take decision and will give the answer to your muscle, that is your hand muscle, to remove your hand. So what we are doing is we are moving our hand with the help of muscles contraction. So how exactly this thing is happening, that we will discuss here. When a nerve impulse reaches the muscles, okay, see, when the when the nerve impulse reaches the muscles, what is happening here? When it is reaches the muscles fiber move. Okay, in muscles, what we have? We have muscle fiber. So these muscles fiber move, and when they are moving, this contraction is taking place. Okay, the simplest notion of movement at the cellular level is that muscle cells will move by changing their shape so that they shortened. Okay, so when this muscle cells is getting the information, it will change its shape and it will shorten. Okay, so the next question is, how do muscle cells change their shape? Okay, how exactly it is changing their shape? Muscles cells have specific protein that change both their shape and their arrangement in the cells in response to nervous electric impulse. When this happens, a new arrangement of these proteins give the muscle cells a short form. Remember when we talked about muscle tissue in 9th, there were different kind of muscles such as voluntary muscles, involuntary muscles. Based on what we have discussed so far, what do you think the difference between these would be? Okay, see, what they are telling is that when we are moving our hand, what is happening? The muscle cells are contracting. Okay, and how exactly they are contracting? Because in muscle cells, What we have? We have special protein. And this special proteins, when it is getting the nerve impulse, okay, nerve electric impulse, when they are getting, they are changing into new arrangement. Okay, that means they are changing their shape. Suppose if the muscle shape is like this. Okay, when it is getting the impulse, it changes the shape like this. Okay, so what is happening? The muscle arrangement is found. Okay, and with this, the muscle is contracting and we can easily remove our hand. So this type of muscles are voluntary muscles. Okay, voluntary means we are doing it by our own. It is in our control. Okay, so whenever we are feeling the thing hot, suddenly we are removing our hand. So this type of muscles are called as voluntary muscles. And I think so you have studied in 9th the 3 kinds of muscles: voluntary muscles, involuntary muscles, and third one is cardiac muscles. Voluntary muscles are those muscles which are under our control. Involuntary, we cannot control the muscles, like in a digestive tract. Okay, the food which we are consuming, it is moving. So this movement is involuntary. Okay, and third muscle you must have studied about cardiac muscles, which are only present in your heart region. Okay, so your heart is surrounded by some muscles, and these muscles are known as cardiac muscle. Okay, so this is just the recall of what you have studied in standard 9th. So all these are in control of nerves. So I think so this till here you understood whatever I want you to explain. So with this I'll like to finish today's lecture, because the topic which is coming next is coordination in plants. Okay, till now what we have studied, we studied that there is a coordination in animals. Okay, where we have nerves which are coordinated, and what they are doing is they are moving with the help of our movement. So do this network, that is coordination, is there in plants? If it is there, what's the difference between the plant coordination and animal coordination? Okay, so how coordination in plants is there, what are they doing, how they are doing? Because see, we know that plants are stationary, they are not moving, but their leaves can move. Okay, so how exactly in plants this control and coordination or nervous system is there? Okay, or do they have nervous system? First of all, if yes, is it same or is it different? Do they are performing the function? How they are performing the function? All these we will discuss in tomorrow's lecture. Okay, so with this I have finished, but see the questions which they have shown, just write their answers. Okay, what is the difference between reflex action and walking? Okay, what happens at the synapse between two neurons? Which part of the brain maintain posture and equilibrium of the body? How do we detect the smell of agarbatti? What is the role of brain in reflex action? So these are some of the questions which you should know. So just go through these questions and try to answer on your own. And if you have any doubt, do ask me. So with this, I'll just end today's lecture. But again and again, I'm telling you to please go through the content which is given, make notes, read properly, and More important is practice the diagrams which are given. Yes, the diagrams which are given, specifically the brain diagram, you cannot draw this diagram without practicing it. So practice it at least 4 to 5 times. Thorough it will be beneficial for you. So thank you.